On Squawk, talking crypto. Let's bring in our next guest, a top investor who watches all these things closely. Kyle Bass, Heyman Capital founder, CIO, ready to talk. I'm sure that we can talk about more than just crypto, Kyle, but I know you have some thoughts about what's transpired in the past couple of weeks, so take it away.
Well, I've stayed quiet on crypto all along, Joe, but I think that what we're seeing here is just the beginning of the unraveling of the whole idea that there is a better currency out there than the hegemonic positions of the world. And I think what happened at FTX, I think is again just a harbinger of things to come. You see that there are going to be many others that file for bankruptcy. And I heard the CFTC chair talk about regulation. And one of the things that you have to think about is when you regulate something, you almost add legitimacy to what you're regulating. I think the law enforcement officials should be diving in head first to the fraud and to what's happening to U.S. investors here. But as you know, this marketplace is a marketplace of just riverboat gambling and people looking to make 50% a month and kind of move themselves off of one of the, let's say, best currencies in the world, the U.S. dollar, and whether it's a U.S. or G7 currency, there's really no room in the world for any other currency. And I know I'm going to probably endure some attacks here, but it's just the way the world works.
The future of crypto at this point, Kyle?
I mean, the question is, what is Tether? Like, what is this $66 billion behemoth that has its headquarters at a small bank in the Bahamas that's literally a hop, skip, and a jump from Sam Bankman-Fried's lairs in Albany? You go see this building. I've actually walked into this building and saw a guy eating a sandwich, and I said, "So this is where the $80 billion is?" The question is, I've spoken with the top head traders of fixed income at some of the largest securities firms in the world who tell me we've never done one trade with Deltec Bank or Tether. And if you look at their balance sheet, they say that there is repos, treasuries, this and that on their balance sheet. Now, they also own precious metals and secured loans and things like that. But if there's an $80 billion or $66 billion now institution out there trading repos and treasuries, you'd assume that someone would find them. Now, I must caveat my statement with, I didn't talk to every single dealer in the world. So maybe there's a dealer out there that will claim they do business with Tether, but I haven't been able to find one. So I just wonder why. Like, what is the purpose of a stable coin when you have G7 currencies? The only purpose of a stable coin, in my opinion, is to be able to jump outside of U.S. and let's say IRS jurisdiction and lever yourself and trade and not report your earnings. And there is no other rationale for owning a stable coin.
Exactly. So we always hear about unfettered capitalism and guardrails. What kind of guardrails do we need to put in place here? And we've obviously regulators are grappling with this right now, I'm sure, at a lot of different federal agencies with different purviews. But how do you keep it? DeFi is called DeFi for a reason. It's decentralized, and that's why it's attractive. So how do you let it grow and mature, but make sure that stuff like this isn't so easy to do?
I think the regulatory bodies and the politicians in the U.S. have decided to kind of let all of the crypto speculation kind of eat itself. And then if there was criminality involved, go in and investigate that criminality. I actually think that's a pretty good tack to take. Going forward, I think this is just a warm-up for the central bank digital currencies of the world. As you know, there are 90 some odd central banks exploring one way or another central bank digital currencies, and China being the biggest. When you think about DeFi and decentralized currency and this hope that we can get to call it a better currency when really everybody was just speculating and trying to gamble. When you think about central bank digital currencies like the Chinese currency, that's the largest threat to the West. And I say that because that gives, you have to download these things on your phones. We have to pay for the currency with real G7 currency ourselves if we're going to transact in it. then they know where you are. They know what your spending proclivities are. They can get straight to you without any kind of regulatory oversight. Imagine if the Chinese government could bribe people directly in the United States, where we'd be. This is a diabolical thing coming, and I believe we should simply ban all of these things. And again, that may sound draconian, but that's where I come out on this.
Hey, Kyle, how concerned are you about knock-on effects, even just from FTX, in terms of prop trading, firms that are exposed to FTX and therefore then derivative firms that are exposed to those firms, in terms of not necessarily a massive systemic crisis of sorts, but more dominoes to fall here?
Yeah, when I think about the global financial crisis, Andrew, we all knew, I guess in the end, that U.S. banks and European banks were inextricably linked through their ISDA agreements and through the various derivatives counterparty-facing agreements they had. In this world, the crypto world is, I don't want to say it's contained, but a lot of the big, as you know, our primary financial institutions have very little to nothing to do with crypto. And so you have this scenario where there are a number of firms out there that may fail. There are a number of firms out there that will probably garner the balance of the business once the fraud and over-leveraging plays out. But in the end, what's left? I mean, why do these firms exist? I'm not sure. Other than, the technology and the blockchain is something that will live forever. And the Web3, and I'm not a technologist, but when I look at the blockchain, there's so many practical applications of the blockchain. But, cryptocurrency and leverage trading and having deposits at institutions that have no FDIC insurance, I think people are getting what they deserve and they're getting wiped out.
Let's go and shift gears, if we could, a little bit. Kyle, we can maybe return to this, but your view of the next couple of years in our relationship with China after the two presidents met, what did you think the takeaway was from what happened last week?
So as you know, these meetings are basically exchanging platitudes, and just so that the viewership here can understand the ridiculousness of the Chinese platitudes. Xi Jinping in the official press release post this meeting says, the Chinese message says, Xi Jinping pointed out that freedom, democracy, and human rights, common pursuit of mankind, and the consistent pursuit of the Chinese Communist Party. I mean, he couldn't have said anything more ridiculous than that. And the communique is probably 2.5 pages long. It's platitudes that go in one ear and out the other. We all know they're not true. And then you go listen to, if you remember the press conference when we just indicted the 13 Chinese nationals for various crimes in the United States, and you listen to FBI Director Christopher Wray and U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland. Merrick Garland said that the government of China seeks to interfere with the rights and freedoms of individuals in the United States to undermine our judicial system that protects those rights. FBI Director Wray says we open a new case on China every 12 hours. So you have the platitudes in these meetings where Xi Jinping and the Chinese government says just ridiculous things. And then you have the real truth behind the evil of their government. And so if you read the section on Taiwan, Xi Jinping says Taiwan is our basically situation to deal with, and that anyone else that interferes with that will be dealt with harshly. And so we have this, they drew a red line, we have a red line. And in the end, our military, if you listen to our admirals recently, is preparing for a Chinese invasion of Taiwan. Xi Jinping's telling you that he's going to move on Taiwan and we should stay out. So I think the Ukraine-Russia conflict also is just a lead-in to a Chinese Taiwan conflict. And I think that's coming in the next couple of years.
Were you surprised that the big investment Warren Buffett made in TSM, Taiwan Semi?
Taiwan Semi is vitally important to the functioning of the world from a chip perspective. They produce about 90% of, let's call it, the high-end chips needed for everything from military hardware to advanced to electric cars and everything that we need to operate at the highest ends of technology. TSMC makes 2 nanometer chips in Taiwan. And just to put things into perspective, Intel can only make a 7 nanometer chip today. The facilities that we heard Tim Cook is going to buy chips from in Arizona that are Taiwan Semi facilities, those are going to make 5 nanometer chips. So those are going to make the last generation chips. So I think that Taiwan Semi is vital to the operations of the world. It's vital to U.S. national security. And when you look at ASML in Holland and TSMC, those are the 2 most important chip companies in the world. And I think Buffett probably figured that out. How we deal with an invasion of Taiwan, who ends up controlling Taiwan Semi's fab in Taiwan, is another story.
That's what I mean. Well, why wouldn't that be? I mean, he must have had some type of calculus go into that decision. How would it? What would happen? And if it's in 2 years, then what do you got? You got to sell it before then?
It's a great question to ask Warren Buffett. I mean, it is a decision fraught with let's say geopolitical considerations, and he must think that either China is not going to invade Taiwan and not take over TSMC, but TSMC's operations around the world, especially in the U.S., will live on. And I think, as you know, we determined that our national security was threatened in 2016. We put in a special plan to cut through all of the red tape and get things built in Phoenix, Arizona as fast as we can. The problem is these things take 5 or 6 years to build. These buildings are $14 billion buildings. If you Google Taiwan Semi and Arizona and look at the images, you've never seen more cranes in one place before. So I think it's important to note that we are working day in and day out to try to attain chip self-sufficiency. And that also goes into my calculus as to when China is going to move. Every day that goes by, we get one step closer to self-sufficiency. And so their tactical advantage to move on Taiwan is sooner rather than later.
Very good. I know those bottles are just for decoration behind you, Kyle, but
I mean, if they wait, then it's going to be less of an issue and less of something that would draw the United States in.
Playing this out. Yep. All right. As I said, thanks, Kyle.
Okay, coming up, we're going to talk a lot more crypto right now because we got an interview coming up with the co-founder of Three Arrows Capital. He says FTX and its trading arm were involved in triggering his own hedge fund's bankruptcy. We're going to speak with him about all of it. Don't go anywhere. Squawk Box coming right back after this.